fonts, color palette? The answer is no. It is just the tip of an iceberg.
So what actually is a design system? A design system is the single source of truth, which groups all the elements that will allow the teams to design, realize, and develop a product. It comprises all the steps involved in creating a solution or a feature. It also includes the organization's vision. Design is not always an in your face art. It is subtle, usable, and often undefinable. Quite simply, a good design is often invisible. Experience design is a human centered craft where the best example of design is the one you never notice.
Let us understand a few features of invisible design system. Feeling right. Much of design is about feeling right. Users want to engage and interact with something they don't necessarily understand. That's an invisible design. The design needs to support the message and not get into way of it.
Connects the whole organization. Designers need to start thinking about design systems as living organism that connects the whole organization. Be it the design team, the engineering team, or the sales team, everyone it should in some or the other way be informed about this system.
Align with users' mental models. The goal is to create an interaction system that naturally aligns with user mental models. Simple user flows, clear visuals, and forgiving design help us create an illusion that it is the user's abilities and not ours, the designers, that allowed a seamless user experience. Remove any sign of ego from your interface, and the user will start to feel like an hero. That's why it's important to think about design as an invisible tool that connects.
Now that we know what is invisible design system, let's see how we can achieve an impactful design system, an impactful invisible design. First, simplify user flows. A simple user flow doesn't always show off your design skills, but it does help users achieve their goal. Here are some ways to get the users to their goals faster. First, fewer steps. So for this, list out all the steps required to complete a task and then remove the redundancies. Second, simpler steps. The goal is not to make as few steps as possible, but the simplest steps. Make an interface that's self-explanatory and don't bog down your users with too many decisions. The more is the number of choices, the more is the confusion.
Map user flows. Basically, user flows are the diagrams that display the complete path a user takes when using a product. These help in identifying loopholes and gaps in the flow that may potentially lead to a poor experience on your site. User testing. Guesswork is really unreliable. Test at least 5 users, maybe your friends, to see how they instinctively try to complete a task. This gives you a more informed data about the applying the above steps given.
Let's have a look at how these steps are implemented to craft a good design. So here we have an example of Uber. So credit card informations are notoriously tedious to enter, especially when you are on a mobile phone. But Uber lets users snap a photo of their card to capture all the information. Now what they did, they have shortened the payment user flow from typing the first name, typing the last name, entering all the digits of the credit card, and then typing in the security number to simply one single step of just taking a photograph. Now, for a user, this experience isn't just useful, it is nearly magical.
Let's understand another aspect of the design system. Every time a user is confused, it adds friction. Clear communication is the ultimate goal of invisible design. Everything in an interface is communicating. Spaces and size communicate the importance. Colors communicate mood. Styles communicate the atmosphere, and so on. All these individual messages must combine to communicate in a sync. With as little thought as possible, a user must know what a site or an app does.
Follow this checklist to make sure your meaning is clear and therefore your design is invisible. First, interactions rooted in reality. Whenever possible, use human mental models from everyday life. For example, here is a screenshot from YouTube where you can see that the progress bar expands, filling up an predefined empty region. This interaction just feels right because it is close to reality. The reality being filling up something empty denotes completion. Second, legibility. For clear communication, all text must be readable. Stick to the proper guidelines for spacing between lines and letters. Use color save to determine the ideal font colors to contrast clearly against the background. For example, Medium does this task perfectly. Have a look at the font sizes, the colors, and the spacing in the screenshot below. Third, consistent moods. You wouldn't use a casual typeface for a subtitle to a tragic photograph. Keep a unifying theme for all imagery, typefaces, and colors to set the mood you want and tie each and everything together nicely. For example, choosing this font and color does not align with the intended mood that the designer wants to convey to the viewer.
Signifiers. Easily recognizable UI patterns are automatically understood from users' previous experience or maybe other sides of the app. Signifiers like a play button over an image to signify a video, it sends a universal signal to all of us that it's a video without wasting much time. Microinteractions. Small design choices like an interactive element changing color on hover can fill in cracks in how your interface works. The subtle cues often communicate to the user without even realizing.
The third aspect and the final aspect of invisible design is forgive your users. To error is human and to forgive is the role of the computer interface. For a truly invisible design, the UI must always forgive the user's errors. If a user makes a mistake that can be fixed easily, the user feels empowered. Consider the following tips. First, undo versus confirm. So, as you might have noticed yourself, users develop a habit loop with pop up windows where they might click the OK or the confirm button before fully understanding what they are confirming. An undo feature accounts for the habit loop instead of challenging it. It also ensures that if the user makes a mistake, he or she can rectify it.
Forgive format errors. Handling inputs can create a great impact on user experience. For example, user search doesn't bother if you type a sentence or a phrase, grammatically correct or incorrect. Even guesses the words, like in this case, in place of a misspell. Forgiving such errors in inputs is really crucial.
Autosaving. Autosave is a great protection against users losing data, whether caused by human error or something else like a browser crash or a power outage.
Exceptional error feedback. At the end, you cannot always defend against errors. When they do occur, provide a proper feedback, what happened, and a helpful way to get users back on track. Also, try and rectify this situation by providing a call to action button for the next step.
Design simply and with purpose. Don't just design because you like to design or you want to make things look good. And don't over embellish or add add in trendy elements just because you want to use that technique. Don't overthink it. Sometimes a simple solution is the correct solution.
Any elements that threaten to distract user from his goal should be removed, no matter how much a design or artful it is. It would just simply spoil your purpose of the website. If your user don't really notice how much effort you put into design and just glide through it seamlessly, it means your design is working perfectly. Have you stumbled across websites that you think work beautifully invisibly? Share them with us at the following link. All the queries are welcome.
Hey, Sarthak here.
Hi, Sarthak.
Um, are there any design strategies that need to be followed, or it's more or less intuitive?
Or design strategies in terms of, like, can you be more specific?
Like in development, there are development strategies like lean or agile form of development. So, are there any standard protocols for design?
There aren't really standard protocols, but there are hypotheses that you can follow. There are eye visual patterns that are, generally there are some patterns that you would observe that there is a left side illustration and text on the right side. That's called an F pattern because it has been researched that user kind to gain more attention when it's written that way. So these are hypotheses, but that's not strictly followed everywhere. It just depends on your site and your design style.
Yeah, but I'd like to make an addition. Uh, like we have a set of rules, like those things we shouldn't really mess with them. For example, making the text like too light or reducing the contrast so much that the user cannot read it. So it might initially look pleasing, but that is a poor UX, and that is something we should avoid in any scenario. So there are a set of rules that we should follow. Yep.
That answers my query. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Hello, Prathamesh here.
Hi, Prathamesh.
Is there any step-by-step method in which we can design anything? Means with a flowchart type.
Okay, so there is like you first try and understand the product. What are the user needs? So that's called user research, where you talk to users, you gain information, you gain insights. After that, you create a mood board for yourself. That's are basically the inspirations that you derive from. Maybe some good design work, some beautifully designed website. That's the mood board that you want to convey to the users. After that, we move to kind of creating the features and the wireframes. Those are basically the pillars of creating a good UI. So you chalked out the flow. How will the website flow work? How will be information given to the user? After that, you try creating gray wireframes. You don't focus much on color more than you focus on experience, and then decide what works and what doesn't work. And once the wireframes are finally ready, you choose your color palettes, you choose your illustration packs, and kind of merge in where to set the mood.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Akshat has put a question in the chat. Uh, okay, Akshat, so your query is how to improve UI design skills. Yeah,
Yes,
so this
yes.
is the question that we often encountered. Like, is there any way or is there any exercise that we can perform in order to improve our UI? So yes, there is. What I and my mentors taught me to do is uh, you go to Dribble or Behance or any similar place where a community of designers post their work, and you pick out a good design, any UI that looks good to you or looks appealing to you, and then what you have to do is just recreate that entire thing. I mean, just copy it from that photograph to your, your canvas. You use any kind of software like Figma, Photoshop, or Illustrator, but your main goal should be, copying that entire UI into yours. So this is an exercise that would, with over time, make your design UI wise design decisions a better, means a little better, and yeah, it will help.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, I think there are no more queries with us, so this should conclude the lecture.